Welcome to Tech Transfer Patent Training. Today we'll talk about the parts of a patent publication. Your presenter today is Gary DeBoer, Professor of Chemistry at LeTourneau University and Faculty Fellow at the Kirtland Air Force Base. Gary is also a registered patent agent with the United States Patent and Trademark Office. You can contact Gary at garydeboer@letu.edu. Today we will talk about the parts of the published patent and the purpose of each of these parts. Hopefully you will have a good understanding of these parts and their purpose at the end of this lecture and be able to compare them with the more familiar scientific journal publication. You can find published patents and published patent applications on the uspto.gov site using the PATFT and AppFT search engines. Here's an example of a issued patent that was found just using the PATFT search engine. Now the parts of this patent can be divided up into the front page, the drawings, the written description, a set of claims, and that's it. Just those 4 parts. We're going to look at each one of these parts and discuss their purpose and how they function. The purpose of the front page is to provide you some information about the patent, and the information that you will see when you look at this is 1, who are the inventors? In this example, you will see that there are an applicant and inventors. Usually these are the same, but sometimes the applicant is a company. The inventors will always be people, and they will be the people that do the invention, do the inventive step in creating the invention, let me say. Unlike authors on a journal article, where the authors might be everybody in your research group, the inventors on a patent must be those who actually contributed to the inventive step. They have to be more than a technician or somebody who analyzed a sample for you. The assignee is going to be the owner of this IP, and in this case the assignee is the Air Force. The next information that you will see on the front page are a set of codes. We call them CPC codes, and here they are. There are the international CPC codes, which we call the ICLs, or sometimes just the CLs, and the US codes are just the CPCs. The USPC is an older set of codes, but they're oftentimes still included on a lot of front page patent publications. So these codes here classify the invention into different technical fields. And if you are searching for inventions and stuff related to your idea, you'll want to search by these codes using the PATFT and AppFT search functions on the uspto.gov website. You can also search by keywords, and it's probably good to search by both the codes and the keywords that hopefully are free words as well, relating to your invention. The next thing you will see on the front page are references. And these are references that could be put in by the inventors when they write up a patent application, or they could be references that the examiner cites as he looks to see if your invention is novel. And A here stands for published applications, and B here stands for issued patent publications. Another thing you will see on the front page is the abstract, and the abstract, like a journal abstract, is supposed to give you a summary of the invention and what's going on here. So you can decide if you want to read more or not. One thing that will be below the abstract is the number of claims and drawings. So if you go to the full document, you should find 21 claims and 7 drawing sheets. And speaking of drawings, usually you will find a representative drawing on the front page of this published patent to give you an idea visually what this patent is all about. And speaking of drawings, here's one, and you can see that all the parts are clearly labeled and enumerated. Drawings are supposed to give us an idea of how the invention works. Here you can see 3 drawings, all related to figure 1, where the invention is in a deployed and a stowed configuration. The deployed configuration here on the left, and the stowed configuration over here on the right. And this tells you what this invention is about. It's about something that can take up small space when stowed and be expanded into a larger volume when it is deployed. Following the drawings, you should find a written description. The written description is going to include a paragraph on the government interest here. And most often, that might not even be included if there is no government interest. Or if it is included, there may be a statement saying not applicable if there's no government interest. In this case, there is a government interest. Next to that, you will find a technical field. This is closely related to those CPC codes we were talking about earlier that are on the front page. And the very next thing will be what we call the background of the invention. The background of the invention presents the problem. There is something out there that's not working as well as it should. There is a need. We need to be able to get stuff into space that's big. It's hard to fit big things on rockets, so maybe we can have those big things collapsed in a stowed configuration, and then when we get out into space, we can deploy them so that they are bigger. That is the answer, and we put that answer in what we call the summary. This is the solution to the problem. Problem is, can't get big things on the rocket. The solution is make those big things little and let them become big when they get up and out there. So problem and solution. Following the problem and solution is going to be a brief description of the drawings. Now remember, the drawings are there to show you how the invention works. And so the brief description of the drawings are going to be words that explain what the drawings are supposed to be telling you. So this is the stowed configuration. This is the deployed configuration. Following that problem, solution, explanation of the drawings in the solution comes the detailed description. And this is the nuts and bolts of your invention, literally. In the detailed description, each of these labeled parts in your drawings will be thoroughly discussed and described, and not one of them will be left out. And every nut and bolt and connection and relationship of parts to each other will be discussed fully, so as to allow anybody to be able to build this thing or to use this thing. Lastly, the fourth part of the patent is the set of claims. And in this patent we have 21 claims. And claims are sort of like boundaries. We have boundaries around our property that we see in a survey when we purchase a home. And the boundaries say, hey, this is my property. Everybody else is excluded from this property. You can't walk across my lawn if I don't want you to. You can't build a storage shed in my backyard. Okay, you better make it in your backyard. And so also with our intellectual property, we have boundaries. We claim what is ours. We claim the property lines of our invention. And so if we look at claim 1, see claim 1 says something like this. It says a tubular structure configured to articulate between a stowed and a deployed configuration. The tubular structure comprising. So this first part here is what we call the preamble. And then on its own line, you see this word comprising, and that's intentional. This word comprising is what we call the transitional word that transitions from the thing, which is named in the preamble, to the body of the claim, which follows the transition. In the body, you will find the elements or the parts of your invention. A helix axis, a second helix axis, a plurality of rigid rings. And then following those parts, or maybe even within the parts, you will find the relationship between these different parts and how these parts function together. So a preamble, the transition, and then the body of the claim, which lists the elements or parts of the invention and how those elements relate to each other to do the thing that it's supposed to do. So this is claim number 1, and we say that this type of claim is an independent claim. It stands all by itself. It doesn't reference anybody else. We look at claim number 2. Claim number 2 says the tubular structure of claim 1, wherein said first and second helixes are extended to represent maximum lengths in said deployed configuration. So, claim number 2 further describes the stuff from claim number 1. It says the deployed configuration is when they're at their maximum length. And so you can't understand claim number 2 unless you've read claim number 1. So we say that claim number 2 is dependent upon claim number 1. So we have independent claims, like claim number 1, which stands all by itself. And we have dependent claims, like claim number 2, which references claim number 1 and depends on claim number 1 for an understanding of what it's saying. Now, you can also have what we call multi-dependent claims. So, for example, if claim number 3 depended on claim number 1 and claim number 2. That's not near as common to have multi-dependent claims. Usually you will have independent claims and dependent claims. So, we have this issued patent, and we've looked at the different parts, the front page, the drawings, the written description, and the claims. Let's compare that to our journal article. The journal article will also have a bunch of information, like the front page, authors, abstracts, references. It will have a bunch of figures in it. There will be a body to the manuscript of the journal article. That usually follows the IMRAD approach, an introduction, a method, results, and discussion. And then usually there is some conclusion to the journal article that claims the new knowledge which is being reported in this article. And so you can see that the parts of a journal article and the parts of a patent are very similar. And so if you're preparing a manuscript for publication in a scientific journal, many of those parts can be used to help your patent attorney or patent agent write up the patent application for a patent on the same material. So, yes, you can both patent and publish, but it's important which order you do these. So make sure that you patent first and publish second. Else, if you publish first, it may prevent you from being able to patent if you patent after you publish. So, reviewing our topics for today, we were to talk about the parts of the published patent and the purposes of each part. Hopefully you know a little bit more about the parts of a published patent than you did before, and you can relate these parts and their purposes to the parts of a journal publication. If you want to know more about the parts of a patent, the definitive source is the Manual of Patent Examining Procedures put out by the USPTO, and you can find this on the uspto.gov website. If you have questions for me, you can reach me at GaryDeboer@latu.edu.